If we can have everybody's attention, we'll get started. Well, today's a great day to honor our veterans here at Patrick Henry Community College and throughout this community and this nation. Thank you for your attendance. Thank you to all the different organizations and groups that are here to support the veterans and the cause and the significance of this day. It's pretty ironic that I spent the last 4 days in Washington, D.C. Giving some speeches and doing some special events type of things, but I got a chance to visit the Korean War Memorial Vet, the World War II Memorial, as well as pretty much all of them. It was just very unique, and the time was perfect just to see that and just recognize the significance of such a day and such an event. So first of all, I'd just like to salute all of you who have spent time in the armed forces. That commitment to your country, to your region, to your people is very welcoming, and it is very applauded. Our first speaker today is Phyllis Fleming. Phyllis Fleming is a faculty member here at Patrick Henry Community College. She is an Army veteran and a first vice commander of the MVets. She's a dear friend and a dear colleague here at Patrick Henry Community College, so I'd like to ask Phyllis Fleming to come up.
Isn't it a beautiful day, everyone? I think that we couldn't have asked more of a perfect day. So good morning, distinguished guests and distinguished veterans. Today really is a glorious day to honor all veterans from every generation. Today is about bridging generations, which is evident in this room because there are veterans who represent the past, the present, and the future. According to Steve Beyer, former U.S. Representative from Indiana, America's veterans embody the ideals upon which America was founded more than 229 years ago. Now, we have passed 237 years as a country whose military forces have served proudly with those ideals. Today, we are bridging those generations of veterans who have boldly pursued the highest ideals. In the last few days, as on all Veterans Day commemorations, we hear about the sacrifices that we band of brothers and sisters have endured in pursuit of American ideals. We have heard true stories of bravery and endurance, and those stories have touched our patriotic spirits. I will not regale you with my own story in the United States Army, but I will emphasize qualities that have a common thread throughout our long history. I do believe that there are 3 ideals that have enabled every veteran, past, present, and future, to not only endure sacrifices, but also embrace sacrifices. Those ideals are duty, loyalty, and honor. Every veteran in this room and every veteran who has passed on has known the meaning of duty. Veterans know they must fulfill their obligations because they accepted those obligations when they signed on the dotted line and said, I do. All of us, regardless of whether we joined the Air Force, Army, Coast Guard, Marines, or Navy, knew that above all else, duty to God, country, and family was our choice and our way of life. It wasn't just an obligation. It was a privilege to serve the greatest country in the world. It was a privilege to protect our country from all enemies, from without and from within. It was a privilege to keep our families safe. It was a privilege to fight for American ideals and values. Duty never ends, because we veterans have a duty to be the guardians of freedom on the home front. Long live a sense of duty now and in the future. Additionally, all veterans value their sense of loyalty. We know that it is the highest honor to bear true faith and allegiance to the United States Constitution, to the armed forces, to the unit, and to other military members. This sense of loyalty stems from believing in yourself and devoting yourself to another person or an ideal or to a military branch. We each have shown that loyalty by carrying ourselves with pride. We each have shown that loyalty by helping veterans in need, or by supporting active duty units in harm's way, or the wounded in the military hospitals, or by supporting the families and spouses who stand behind their military husband, son, father, grandfather, brother, or uncle. We each stand a little taller when the flag passes in review, or when the Pledge of Allegiance is recited. Today, we stand here showing our loyalty to each other and to all veterans from the past, present, and future. Long live our right to demonstrate loyalty by wearing our uniform, by wearing our dog tags, and there are 3 generations of dog tags right here in my hand, by saluting the flag, and by helping our fellow band of brothers and sisters. Finally, honor is the 3rd ideal, and maybe the most important ideal, which has enabled every armed forces member to carry out the military mission of safeguarding our country and families. Honor enables us to remain the guardians of freedom. Honor enables active duty personnel and veterans to make value choices that enhance their sense of integrity, respect, and personal courage. We in this room know that honor is about making the right choice and doing right even when no one is looking. Honor demands, then and now and in the future, that we each must live up to a higher standard. We must walk tall, stand straight, and live honorably all the days of our lives. Without honor, we each will have lived in vain. I am humbled when I visit with other veterans who have done so much to make this country safe and secure. I have known many fine armed forces members who embodied ideals, for I've spent my entire adult life around the military, and I'm very proud of that. Colonel Louis Millette was such a man who instilled all of the ideals. He fought in 3 wars, World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. He won the Silver Star, and he won the Congressional Medal of Honor for what has been considered the last bayonet charge in history. I was on his staff at Fort Devens, Massachusetts in the mid-1960s while he was commanding officer of the Army Security Agency. Even though as a young PFC I did not write down all of his war stories, and I heard a lot of them, I do remember many conversations where he discussed honor. When I think of honor, I think what he said. He said, "I believe in freedom. I believe deeply in it. I've fought in 3 wars and volunteered for all of them because I believed as a free man that was my duty to help those under the attack of tyranny. Just as simple as that. That, my friends, is honor." The ideals of duty, loyalty, and honor have enabled all veterans to endure the sacrifices asked of them by our country. These ideals have also bridged the past, the present, and the future of all armed forces members, from General George Washington to First Lieutenant Robert Dunwoody, who's now serving in Afghanistan, and he's my grandson. They are the ideals that will enable each of us to keep America focused on our veterans and their needs. Because just as the combat man or woman never leaves a wounded man or woman behind, we as veterans must ensure that no veteran is ever forgotten or left behind. We are honor-bound to make sure that no one is forgotten. We need to challenge ourselves to fight for veterans' rights and to support each veteran as he or she enters the civilian world after service has ended. We need to remember, always remember, that we are living in a free country because of the generation of veterans who have served this country and who will serve this country in the future. In Henry V, Shakespeare summed up the past, present, and future of all veterans, whether we are brothers or sisters, from this day to the ending of the world, but we in it shall be remembered. We few, we happy few, we band of brothers, For he today that sheds his blood with me shall be my brother. I salute each of you, and I am proud to call you either brother or sister. More importantly, I am proud to stand beside you as a veteran. I am proud to honor each of you. I am proud to honor the past, present, and future veterans. Martha Summerhays, who was a frontier military wife, echoes my sentiments when she said, I am glad to have known the Army. The soldiers, the line, the staff, it is good to think of honor and chivalry, obedience to duty, and the pride of arms. To have lived amongst men whose motives were unselfish and whose aims were high, amongst men who served an ideal, who stood ready at the call of their country to give their lives for a government which is to them the best in the world. I honor all veterans present and missing, and I wish that all of you would please stand with me as I recite the soldier's prayer as written by Colonel Louis Millette, who was a true American hero. I didn't know at the time that, knowing Colonel Millette well, that he was the author of this prayer. And I have said this prayer and heard this prayer many times during my lifelong career. I've fought when others feared to serve. I've gone where many failed to go. I've lost friends in war and strife who valued duty over the love of life. I've shared the comradeship of pain. I've searched those lands for men that we've lost. I've sons who served our land of liberty, who'd fight to see that other lands are free. I've seen the weak forsake humanity. I've heard fakers praise our enemy. I've seen challenged men stand even bolder. I've seen the duty, the honor, the sacrifice of the soldier. Now I understand the meaning of all lives, the lives of comrades of not so long ago. So to you who answered duty's siren call, may God bless you, my son. God bless you, everyone. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Phyllis, for those kind words. Next is Mr. Willie Gibson. Mr. Willie Gibson is an Air Force veteran, and he's our current P&HCC veteran coordinator. He spent 12 years in the Air Force and is originally from Georgia. Willie just started with the college this past year. We're blessed to have Willie, and we are named a 2014 military-friendly college. Rosemary Bowers and both Willie Gibson have put a lot of time and effort into working with veterans and people in the armed forces over the years, so please welcome Willie Gibson.
Let me start by saying that I know today is a day for veterans and recognizing and the appreciation and for us to receive our applause and accolades. But I also want to say thank you for everyone that is sitting in this room today. You didn't have to be. I'm sure there could have been many other places that your services would have been required. But I want to say thank you for turning out and showing us that you really do care and you support the veterans, and you know that means a lot to me. Today we honor and remember the past services of Americans' veterans, those of whom placed themselves in harm's way for the sheer preservation of our country's protection, values, and beliefs. As Americans, we enjoy the fruits of the labor bestowed upon us by our courageous men and women who make the ultimate sacrifice to serve our great nation. It is paramount that we, on this day, honor and recognize these extraordinary human beings, to allow the thankless to be thanked and admired for being so unselfish. The sacrifices that veterans have endured can't be measured. The many nights away from our loved ones, the constant restructuring and adjustment of everyday life, that's a normality when you serve in the military. Having to deploy to foreign lands and keep the attitude and a positive belief that we will fulfill any and all missions placed upon us, that is an expectation that we take to heart and we want to make sure that we always fulfill. These are some of the challenges many veterans have faced and will continue to face in the coming years. As I was thinking about this speech and what I wanted to talk about, I reflected back on my own time in the military. And I started thinking to myself that I wanted to say thank you each and every day for making that faith-based, uninformed decision over 15 years. Because the time when I came about and had to make that choice as to whether or not the service and the call of duty was for me, we didn't have internet. We didn't have access to all this wonderful information that now young men and young women can use to make sure that they are able to make a wise decision for the future. So I remember going and speaking with a local Air Force recruiter. And the only reason I was doing this was because one of my friends, he was saying, hey, I think the military is a great option for us. I said, well, hey, I ain't got nothing else going on for me. I don't want to work at Walmart, so let's go talk to him. And I had heard the speech constantly, repeatedly from all the armed forces about how they needed me and I was the greatest thing to slice bread. And I recall coming to this recruiter and I remember saying to him, first thing I said to him as a young, disrespectful kid, I said, what can you do for me, man? Period. He said, hold on, let me say this to you. He said, first and foremost, the Air Force doesn't need you. You need the Air Force. And I started thinking, I said, this guy must didn't know me. He didn't know Willie Gibson. He needs me. So I'm thinking that's still that young, small kid thinking, yeah, right, you need me. However, over time, I truly discovered what this gentleman told me was accurate. It was true. I needed the Air Force. When I first enlisted, I was your typical kid, loved hip-hop music, wanted money in my pocket, wanted to join only because of the monetary gains that I could receive. As time progressed and I moved throughout my career, I was slowly but surely taught the true meaning of why we serve and why we answer that call of duty. When I decided to commit myself to this, I was very, very much uninformed and unaware of what I was getting myself involved in. And I was fortunate enough to encounter great leadership, great people in my life that educated me on the process and educated me on why I committed myself. And guess what? It wasn't because of those rims and having a little money in my pocket and things of that nature. It was for a bigger cause and a bigger purpose. Early on in my career, I was exposed to the many sacrifices that military members go through. I was sent on many deployments, spoke with many individuals, servicemen and women, whom would explain to me that they were leaving families behind, explaining to me that they were going to miss birthdays, they were going to miss anniversaries, they were going to miss family gatherings that were very important to them. However, in speaking with these individuals and explaining how they're going to miss such important, precious life moments, they all still stood there and looked me in the eye and said with pride, though, that they were so happy that they were going to get the opportunity to go and fulfill the call of duty. And the reason they said that, though, was because that was their opportunity to make sure that their loved ones, that my loved ones, and everyone that is sitting in here today, loved ones, can have those anniversaries, can enjoy those family engagements, can have those birthdays without any fear of any type of enemies, foreign or domestic, coming over and negating them from being able to fulfill those moments. And it was then when I first had I guess you could say a epiphany or a wake-up call that is bigger than my own selfish reasons and my own selfish wants and desires as to why I'm serving. I'm serving for not only myself and my loved ones, but I'm serving for everyone's loved ones and family. And with that, I took a whole different level of pride about being called a service member. about being in the armed forces. It was then that I shifted from my own selfish, young-minded, immature reasons for why I'm serving and took on a bigger cause and refocused and rethought about why I am committed to this armed branch of service. These people that I encountered impacted my life in ways that are endless and I will never forget. Some of them are still friends. Some of them I still consider role models and also mentors in my life. And for that, I'm grateful and I'm thankful. The military showed me that I could be a person that not only focused on my own success and gains, but to think of others in serving and defending our wonderful nation. I have had the pleasure and good fortune to have had several jobs within the armed services that allowed me to help impact other lives. From being a firefighter and a first responder to being also that recruiter that would help guide young men and young women in making a wise choice for their future. These experiences helped me to transition into what I call the next life by providing me necessary skills and experience to be a productive, law-abiding citizen. Life as a veteran is one that I take much pride in. This unique fraternity allows me to encounter fellow brothers and sisters that share similar stories and experiences as I. No matter the race, age, or religion, we all share that common bond in being able to say we serve the world's greatest military. And for that, I am proud. So on this day, I ask in observance of Veterans Day that we thank those men and women for making that sacrifice. Please, when you see a veteran, shake their hand, give them a hug. Just show them that you support their cause. You show them that you appreciate the sacrifices that they have made so that you can live the life that you currently have. So with that being said, I would hope before everyone leaves out of this assembly hall or out of this room that they will take my advice and just say thank you to that veteran. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Willie, for that. Our last speaker here, his name is Andrew Schwartz. He's a Transition Assistant Program Coordinator with the Virginia Department of Veteran Services. Andrew served 12 years in the Marines, and he's originally from California. So please welcome Andrew to the podium.
Thank you. It's an honor and privilege to be here. On behalf of the Commissioner of Veteran Services, it's my pleasure to be in front of you on this day, and it's appropriate that we started this event at 11 o'clock. The first Armistice Day was observed on November 18th at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. And this is always sort of my favorite time of year because just yesterday was the Marine Corps birthday, so we get to celebrate a birthday to honor the Marine Corps, and then the very next day to celebrate a day honoring all the veterans. And I got to say, I do feel comfortable here because I know there's at least several other Marines here. For those that were in the Army and the Navy and the Air Force, rest assured the situation is well in hand. Well, that's right. So, but regardless of your branch of service, and the Coast Guard, please don't let me forget the Coast Guard. But regardless of your branch of service, each of you, veteran or military spouse or military dependent or any way connected with the military, knows that the level of sacrifice that America's veterans and America's service members put themselves through is far greater than your average American. And I firmly believe that the United States today is really beginning to understand that. Historically, it's sort of been the trajectory of civilization to care about veterans and to care about military service after a war. And then, you know, after the ebb and flow of peace and war goes through, veterans tend to be forgotten about, wars tend to be forgotten about, the attention span seems to forget the service that military and veterans have performed for their country. But in having this Remembrance of Veterans Day, as a day set aside specifically for veterans, I think is a great service to all our veterans, past and present, to make sure that every year, regardless of whether we're in peace or whether we're in war, we have a way to honor those who have served the country in uniform through the past, present, and in the future. Like I said, I think the United States is really on the right course in making sure that we remember all the veterans and the service they provided. Governor McDonnell has made this a special mission of his during his last 4 years in office to make sure that Virginia can be called the most military and veteran-friendly state in the nation. I think over the last 4 years, the steps that he's taken to make sure that has happened have been very evident. He's expanded the amount of service that has gone out to the veterans in Virginia, and he's really demonstrated a high priority in not just paying lip service to honoring our veterans, but making sure that we are doing tangible things to create an environment in which veterans can succeed. I work directly for the Department of Veterans Services. I'm like you said, I'm the Transition Assistance Program Coordinator. And what that reflects is today's environment in which we're getting out of wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, and so many young service members are leaving the military and re-entering the civilian life. Many of these young veterans and young transitioning service members, the military was their first job. They knew no other life in their adult life other than the military. And those of you who have served know that the military culture and the civilian culture are quite different. And I just got out of the Marine Corps about 1.5 years ago, so I'm still learning the civilian language again and still making that transition myself. And from what I hear, it'll be another 50 years before I master it. And we have 1 million service members that are going to be transitioning out of the military very soon. That's already started to happen. We're already starting to see it. And Virginia is one of those places where that attracts veterans. We have a large military population over in Tidewater and up in northern Virginia. So it's a natural place for service members to transition and get out. And we want to make sure that their service is honored, not just because it's the right thing to do, but we also want to make sure that those skills that veterans bring to the civilian workforce are capitalized upon. As Ms. Fleming said, the character traits of duty, honor, and loyalty are such valuable traits that are instilled in us. And as Mr. Gibbons said, whether you joined for a selfish reason or for an altruistic reason joining the service, your life changed when you in the Marine Corps when you stepped on those yellow footprints. And whatever service you were at, when you went through boot camp, you came out of there a changed man or a changed woman. You had a sense of duty, a sense of honor, a sense of loyalty that you never had before. And translating those skills into the civilian workforce is really something that Virginia has sought to capitalize on and sought to educate other companies in the Commonwealth to capitalize on. There's no better reason to hire a veteran than to make sure that it's good for your bottom line as a business owner. And this is something that we're trying to educate companies throughout Virginia about. It's appropriate that the Virginia Employment Commission is here today. I work quite closely with them, and they have, I think, 63 different vet reps throughout the state that are able to assist transitioning veterans, transitioning military service members and veterans, help find them a job, connect them with companies who are friendly towards veterans. And we're growing in that population every day of companies. Through what's called the Virginia Values Veterans Program, we've had companies have gone through this program and become certified, and they've pledged over 4,900 jobs to veterans. And this is just over the last 1.5 years. And over this past 1.5 years, we've had these companies hire just over 3,300 veterans. So these are, again, like I said, these are real tangible things that the Commonwealth of Virginia is engaging in to honor the service of our military and our veterans in the Commonwealth. There's a culture shock, like I said, coming out of the military and entering the civilian workforce. I like to think of it as the final deployment. I deployed to Iraq in 2005 in Ramadi in the Sunni Triangle, and let me tell you, that was a culture shock in and of itself. We had about 1 year workup worth of training, and we did all the field exercises, all the hikes, all the mock war games and everything like that to make sure that we were prepared. But all of that training we got while we were on Camp Lejeune amounted to nothing once we got in country. The real training occurred once you stepped off the helicopter into the desert and identified your surroundings and realized what the real threats were around you. Now, when you're transitioning out of the military, it's sort of the same way. The military has been really good over the past year on making sure every service member getting out receives some sort of transition training. And they go through this for about a year. But the real training occurs once they get into that foreign country called the civilian workforce. And it's a real culture shock, believe me. So the other program we have going in the Commonwealth is what's called the Post-Transition Assistance Program. This is designed for veterans who went through the training, but because they were ordered to go, just sort of sat there and missed out on all the good information that they were getting. So we've designed a program to let them go back through that and engage in the sort of resources that are available, like the Virginia Employment Commission, like the Virginia Wounded Warrior Program, and all the other great organizations that are out there that are so willing to help veterans. And no other state in the nation has this sort of thing, but I see it as a common sense solution to helping veterans after they've gotten out. Help them translate those skills, those valuable skills they learned in the military, and put them to use for civilian employers or to help start their own business. And we're also going back and making sure that these veterans know exactly how to use their GI Bill. If you don't know what the GI Bill, it's the check that Uncle Sam pays you after your military service to go to college. But what most veterans don't realize is they can also use that GI Bill to get certifications and licenses and entrepreneurship training and flight training and correspondence courses and non-college degree programs and any number of things. And that actually should hit home to Patrick Henry Community College, because you've got some great programs here that will facilitate that, such as the HVAC, the electrician's licenses, and many other programs as well. And the community college system is well poised to help these veterans out, and we've seen a huge increase in the amount of support that the community college system is giving to the veterans as they're transitioning out. So I would be remiss if I didn't thank Patrick Henry Community College for the efforts that they're putting towards serving veterans in their transition, and all veterans in every walk of life. So all of this being said, I could actually talk all day about the programs that Virginia is engaging in, but that's not really why we're celebrating Veterans Day. But it is a good thing that I know I can talk all day about the things Virginia is doing. It makes me feel good as a veteran to know that the Commonwealth takes veterans' issues seriously. It takes the service and the sacrifice that veterans have given. It takes it seriously and wants to honor that correctly. Just a quick story. I've been communicating with some of my old friends on Facebook over the course of the past few days, reflecting on our military service and our deployments in Iraq. And we have this ongoing joke about the time that we were in Iraq and the Sentry Tower caught on fire and all the munitions started exploding, and it was quite an exciting time, believe me. But it's one of those situations that unless you were in the service and you were in that sort of environment where you're training for life and death situations every day, or you're in a life and death situation every day, it's a sort of camaraderie that builds that you just can't find anywhere else. So every year around Veterans Day and the Marine Corps birthday, I get a little bit more nostalgic each year and a little bit more reflective on that camaraderie that I shared with all my brothers and sisters in the Marine Corps, and really from every branch of service, because I did serve in a lot of inter-service commands as well. And I have the utmost respect for all the service, all the sacrifice that each branch of service, each service member has given in whatever branch of service, even though the Marine Corps still is the best. But there's just nothing y'all can do about that. So. But really, it's my honor and privilege to be here today, and I really hope that through the various programs and all of the great resources you've seen here today, through all the different agencies that are so willing to help our veterans, that you can really rest assured that we strive here in Virginia to make every day Veterans Day. And I thank you all for your service, and thank you for being here.
Let's give another round of applause for all three of our speakers. At this time, if you are a veteran or currently have served or are serving in any of our armed forces, please stand and be recognized. you all is what this day is about. If everybody else would stand and join them, we would ask our veterans to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very much.